Okay, good stuff. Now we're all ready to go. All right, so welcome to the Getting Code Show. You know, our code is empowerment. And today we have with us the Queen, Tarin. She call her T. She said, just call her. And we have back with us on the platform, Brother Minister Zumbi. How you doing, Brother Minister?
Good.
Good stuff. Well, I tell you, hey, this woman is incredible. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts that she's in. Her space is wellness, and wellness is definitely an area that needs to be really delved into, particularly when it comes to empowerment. So tell us about how you started your company. Let's start there, and then we're going to talk about leadership lessons, and then I'm going to ask you towards the end, what are you doing differently in this generation that will positively empower the next generation, which was different than what you were born into? So that's gonna be the last question. So that'll be that's a nice juicy one, right?
Nice, good stuff.
Okay. But tell us about your firm and how you started it.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, I have been a holistic wellness practitioner, really interested in the area of wellness for the last 10 years. I studied osteopathy, which is all about the body and human anatomy and human movement. And through that, I got into yoga and meditation and mindfulness as well. And I was working with a lot of corporates to do team building retreats, and then I was starting to get into working with hotels and resorts to build out their guest wellness programs. And that was really exciting. 2019 was a great year for me. A lot of momentum. I got to live in Thailand and Morocco. Yes, absolutely. Living in resorts, in beautiful 5-star resorts, building out guest wellness programs. I had another engagement in Argentina, and then March 2020, everything shut down and pandemic happened. So everything that I had been building toward and growing toward was all of a sudden gone overnight. And I just realized how, how this is one of those moments to kind of come back to myself and just kind of redirect, re-navigate, renegotiate and see what was next, and how to really start to then take my offering into a different space, into a different iteration of itself. And so my partner and I, who is an incredible marketing expert from Silicon Valley, we were talking a lot about wellness in the wellness space, especially the corporate wellness space. And we just saw so much potential to not only take more, like mindfulness practices and yoga and meditation to that space, but more wellness practices in general. Because for the last 100 years, the corporate wellness space has really been more about, screening and prevention and cessation, but not necessarily that focus on overall well-being, and really like taking care of people in stressful times, which was evident when the pandemic happened, and there just weren't resources or tools for the companies to be able to take care of their people and their employees and really check in with people. So I decided to connect my incredible network of facilitators and wellness experts that I've met over my course of my time in the industry to these companies remotely, and really start to build that out as a service, a full-scale solution for companies to really start to, again, empower and take better care of their people with wellness knowledge and wellness resources. So that's how the company started, all through pivoting and not getting too stuck in the chaos of the moment of that pandemic moment.
Wow. Let me ask a question. I know Zumbi, you got a question. Hey, Zumbi always has some good questions. So corporate wellness, tell me about that space, because it's not a space that, when you're going to school, you don't say, hey, I want to grow up and be a corporate wellness practitioner. You never heard it until really the last 10 years or so. Tell us about the corporate wellness space.
Yeah. So again, as I was saying, the corporate wellness space to this point has really been very much about like screening practices. And so everything has been more about being reactive instead of proactive. And I completely agree with you. The corporate industry in general is not a space that I thought I would ever really be in. But it's been so interesting to just really start connecting connecting more people who don't necessarily have the tools and resources that wellness facilitators, wellness practitioners, people who are into, yoga and like exercise and all of these kinds of practices that aren't, well, they are mainstream, but they aren't necessarily, it's not necessarily common knowledge to everyone. So it was me kind of realizing that the knowledge that I had and the knowledge that I had learned was not necessarily, it's not common sense. And so to be able to take it to more people, I really wanted to go into a space where, again, people don't necessarily have that same connection of information for wellness resources and all that. And the corporate space is really, really in need of that, because again, it's not been focused on the people and the people's well-being. It's been more focused on just health. Like, do you smoke or not? Are you at risk for diabetes? Are you at risk for high cholesterol? Those are the things that are really focused on in the corporate wellness space, and it's not really taking responsibility for the individual's overall well-being. Well-being is so multi-dimensional and so all-encompassing. It's more than just smoking or making sure that you're taking enough 10,000 steps a day. It's a little bit larger and grander, and to be able to actually provide those resources is so essential for people to be able to take care of themselves in general, but especially in this new remote working world where we all have a new level of responsibility for ourselves and our time and our schedules, and being in our spaces and making it our home space, our fun space, our childbearing space, our education, everything space. So yeah, it's really to just help that process and really ease that along and make it more sustainable. Because I don't think remote work is going anywhere anytime soon.
I agree. Yeah. Go Zumbi.
Yeah.
Yes. I had a chance to look at your website, and as I was going through the website, a question for me is about culture. So in your experience, how has your company impacted an organization's culture?
It's a really good question. By opening up more conversations around that, by promoting more health and well-being, and again, giving resources and tools to have the conversations around fitness and wellness and things that aren't necessarily spoken about on the Slack channel. We have a company that we've been working with for a few months now that really their Slack channel is really active, and as we've started doing sessions, they've started discussing more and sharing more healthy tips on their Slack channel, sharing more meditation and affirmations and things amongst themselves, just because of the sessions that we've been doing. So it's really helping to foster conversations that I don't think employees would have had with each other before, in a new way, and in with just a new consciousness around being able to share that information, because it's tangible and relevant, instead of it just being something that they're interacting with on their own, like they're just watching a YouTube meditation on their own, in their own capacity, and then not really sharing that with their coworkers. Because again, remote work is not going away, but it's also not a very easy place to make friends and to bond with your team and to really get to know your team, especially if you're in a company that's hiring a lot of new people that you're never actually going to get to physically meet. It's really difficult to make those other connections outside of work and to feel like your Zoom meetings are more than just Zoom meetings, because you don't really have that kind of commonality and outside connection with your staff members. So that's really how it's helping to enhance the culture of a lot of the companies that we're seeing. And it's just fostering more conversations, opening up a little bit more space for them to interact and really engage in something that's not work. And live also, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, you said something earlier that I thought was really intriguing, that your business pre-COVID was allowing you to travel to Morocco, to Thailand. And so I know you must have traveled to more places than just Morocco and Thailand. So how did you build that business? And what was the name of that business?
Yeah, so that business was basically just me as a wellness practitioner. So I had a business and a brand. I am a brand called the Chocolate Pretzel. So I taught a lot of I taught at a lot of
Wait.
It was my
You need to let that marinate for a second. The chocolate pretzel.
All right. I'll say, yeah, the chocolate pretzel. And it's because the key to life is infinite flexibility. Infinite flexibility. No matter where you are, you have to learn how to be flexible. You need to learn how to adapt. And so I had always really taken that philosophy into everything I've done. I'm also a very flexible human being. So that's kind of how that name came about. So that was my solo consultancy. And I worked with a lot of brands on like brand campaigns and activations. I worked with Puma, I worked with the Movenpick. So I got to do a lot of that kind of like individualized work. And that's why as I was deciding to build this new business, I was deciding if it was just going to be that same kind of iteration of like, I'm doing this on my own and I am the brand, right, or I can help so many more people by, building out a team of facilitators who can cover a variety of different topics and subjects and things that I wouldn't be able to do all on my own. I also can't run a whole business on my own and then also teach classes and serve the clients and deliver the service. So to see that this new space is way bigger than just me was an important part in building this. But that business was also absolutely incredible, and it's still obviously is there because I'm still obviously keynoting and speaking and doing everything I can still do virtually in my own capacity, but it's not my main focus anymore, and it's not like I'm just trying to build out retreats and events by myself.
Wow, Minister Zumbi, I have to ask a follow-up. Okay,
yeah.
How did the chocolate pretzel get the first corporate book? There's got to be a story around how you got that very first big booking. That's the chocolate pretzel.
Yeah, definitely. So it was actually because of the name. I got found on Instagram and approached by the hotel initially. They asked me to come and do an influencer shoot and engagement and just see if I liked the hotel. And then I got speaking to them, and I was saying like, so do you have any yoga spaces? Do you have any fitness areas? Like, can I come and teach a class? Because I didn't just want to go and use their free product and stay in their hotel. I was like, can I come and do something? Can I give value for you in whatever way? Right. And I said, and they were like, absolutely. We don't have anything. We just have this huge resort and no classes. No, we just have a beautiful state-of-the-art gym with no trainers. And wow. I was like, well, how interesting is that? Because I think that it would be really beneficial to you to start to give your guests some kind of training schedule or some kind of program. And then that's how we started talking. And literally it's just because of the silly name and the internet that opportunity came my way. But sometimes it doesn't hurt to make your name memorable. And now it's just a fun Instagram handle to yell at people that I need to give my name to in quick passing without having to exchange numbers and details or whatever.
Right. So is it at The Chocolate Pretzel, or is it at Chocolate Pretzel?
The Chocolate Pretzel.
That's great. That's really interesting. Wow. Okay, Zumbi.
Yeah.
Okay. When in your experience in assessing organizations, what has been the most challenging aspects of an organization when you do assessments?
The organization thinking that they have no need for the service, or that they don't or the organization being like they don't see the value in the service. Or having, spelling in general is difficult, but it's just so interesting to speak to someone who doesn't have an idea of why it's necessary. And so to really show the value and to make the value understood, we have to show examples and testimonials and all of that. But it speaks to the greater idea that, again, we don't think that wellness is something that we actually need. We think of it as a luxury. And I just keep coming back to that in my mind about how it's become this thing that is only, you know, elite or selfish, or it has to be a certain way, or it has to, you know, that you have to have your doTERRA essential oils and your $200 yoga pants to, you know, for the wellness space to be relevant. And it's just not that way. So I think that's a hard thing for me that to have to combat. That's usually what I come up against, of people thinking that it's too expensive, it's a luxury, it's not necessary. And it's just not true. It's basic self-care, being able to really understand and take care of your employees, but also yourself on a fundamental level. And I mean, good health is good business. It just is. Like if healthy employees stay longer and work harder, they're more productive, they're more creative, because they're not as stressed. They have outlets, and they have people who are checking in with them and who actually care about them as people outside of their tasks. And so I think that's a really important messages for companies to start to send.
Because and this just came to mind, you know, how in the past companies would say, pull some motivational speaker in, throw 50 grand in his pocket, you give this rah-rah, what have you. And it's like a sugar rush where you're hyped up for a certain amount of time and then you crash, as opposed to coming in on a more holistic level, finding out, okay, what do you do good? Where are you challenged? How do we custom make a program that you can follow for long-term success?
Yep. 100%. The sage on stage model, it's what I like to call it, where it's just like one person comes and speaks at you, and there's no integration. There's just like, you feel really motivated for, like, maybe again, like you were saying, for those 30 minutes. You took a couple notes, and then obviously your life starts back up again. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So again, it's not a long-term strategy. It's not a long-term solution, and it's not as sustainable as having something that is integrated into your business's culture, that's integrated into your workday, and that's just a meeting on your calendar that you show up for. And whether I think the thing about most companies ask is, like, they worry that not all of their employees are going to like the same things, which is why we suggest varying the sessions, doing sessions that are in Qigong and Tai Chi, and then a little bit of mindfulness, and then a little bit of nutritional wellness and optimization, and some information about burnout and balance, and what stress does to your body system. So it's like you'll learn something new and have something digestible to take away from each session. Whether you choose to integrate it or not, the information is still there, the resource is still there, and I think that's the difference. For companies to actually do that, to have something like that. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. You know, the Get On Code show focuses on health, wealth, and knowledge of self. And it looks to me like that wellness space is right there in the middle, but I don't think that it's as valued. And so I'm starting to wonder, after listening to you and learning about your story, is how did wellness become so important to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a really good question. So wellness has always been quite important in my life, because I grew up dancing. I pretty much could dance before I could walk, and that was really, really important to me to understand my physical body. And so wellness is a very different thing. Obviously, physical wellness is just a part of overall well-being. But for me, it was all about the physical at first. And so I really wanted to learn everything about my own body and understand and expand that. And once I felt like I had some level of mastery around that, I really wanted to learn more about just the body in general, which is what led me to study what I studied with osteopathy and yoga. And in that process, I couldn't stop. Like once you find your passion, and once you find something that sets your soul on fire, it becomes every part of you. So then I started looking into wellness as more than just this one thing, and seeing how wellness really fits into every area of life. wellness is your occupational well-being, your environmental well-being, your social well-being, your intellectual well-being, your emotional and well-being. It's like there's so many areas that are covered and touched by being well that I don't think I'm ever going to get to the end of that. And that's really good for me as a person who is curious and a person who's a seeker, and I love to learn. So yeah, that's pretty much how wellness came into my life and has just continued to grow and expand. And I think that it is an ever expanding thing, and it's only getting more important and more vital, more essential, especially as we are really having to look at how we're taking care of ourselves, taking responsibility for our health, which is something each of us are having to do as individuals, especially with this pandemic. Everyone's really having to make sure that they are themselves physically well, to make sure that they're protected. You have to know your own health. You have to know what you're taking, what you're putting into your body. You have to understand yourself on a different and more fundamental level when you focus on your well-being. So that's why I think wellness is just so important. It's so important to just understand why it is important to be well.
Okay, go Zumbi.
Yeah. Ownership. When you're working with an organization, how do you get the supervisors as well as the employees to get ownership? So, for example, creating a space to where people are quote unquote checking in with one another as part of a team building process.
That's a really interesting and good question as well. So usually the people that we're speaking to and that I'm communicating with are the HR people, the head of like of experiences, and so the person who is focused on the team. And so that's generally my into the company, and that's generally how I get to interact with the the managing directors and the supervisors and all of that, and that check-in point is actually extremely helpful because that's the person that's checking in with people anyway. So at first, when I first started the company, I started by speaking to the wrong people. I spoke to the supervisors, the CEOs, the managing directors, and those people don't have time to talk about it because they are running companies. They don't have time to think about that, which is why there are CHROs, and HR managers and all of that. So again, having that check-in point for a company is really important. But I also realize the importance of just having someone who is focused on and dedicated to wellness on staff. So we've actually built out a product inside of our service as well called a chief wellness officer. And that's basically a part-time staff member that joins the team and is that resource. So they have office hours, and they have they curate team challenges, they curate the live sessions. They are the check-in point for the whole team, the resource for the whole team to be able to really, go and call upon that person's health knowledge. If anyone's going through anything that they need, they need eating advice, or they need advice about stress management tips, or whatever it may be, there's actually a resource to go to on your team. And so that's something that's still like really rolling out. We've only rolled it out to a few companies, but it's been extremely effective to have that person to check in with the people on the team. It just depends on the team and how much the team really thinks they need it.
Wow. We know that success leaves clues, great success leaves footprints, and phenomenal success leaves a playbook. So what footsteps were you following? What clues were you following? What books did you read, or what playbooks did you read to kind of get you to the point where you developed such a great company before with Chocolate Pretzel, and now with remote team wellness?
Oof. That's a huge question, because that's like every inspiring thing that I've ever
right.
or consumed in my life. And there are so many amazing teachers and incredible masters that I've had, and like just amazing people and resources that I've gotten to draw from myself. Definitely the person whose footsteps I was following in may not be exactly who you were expecting, but it's someone who's been very important to me and like pivotal in my journey and in my life, and it's Nelson Mandela. He was a very close friend of our family, and he's just a very inspirational figure and man and person that encouraged and inspired a lot of where I am today. And following in someone who continues to persevere, continues to, you know, pivot no matter what adversity they face. That's pretty much the lesson that I've taken and carried through my life because of that man. So that's the person probably.
Wow. Okay.
Resources, so many books, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Definitely Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. What other books do I love? Oh, there's a really cute dog running around on that balcony. Sorry. That's my intense hypersensitivity to motion and sound and light just coming out there for a moment. I think I like to learn from everything and everyone. But yeah, there are definitely things and people that have driven me to be the person that I am today, and yeah, those are definitely the things that I'd say have led me here.
Okay, I'm sure you saw this coming. I have a follow up. Nelson Mandela. That's intriguing. Now we love Nelson Mandela, but we adored Winnie Mandela. She was a writer. You know, her spirit, may the ancestors be a blessing to many more generations. Wow, that sister was really, unfortunately, kind of overshadowed by her first husband's fame and notoriety and his great achievements. That sister was definitely a writer as well. So that's interesting. So you were saying that your family was close with him.
Yeah.
So how did that occur?
So I'm from South Africa originally. So I am a South African. And so yeah, my father was in the ministry and worked alongside him with the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. And was quite a big part of that as well. So yeah, that's pretty much how we came to know the Mandela family.
Interesting. I'm going to follow up later after the Zumbi, but I'm going to ask about that Truth and Reconciliation Committee. Zumbi.
And I'm assuming this is your main focus, is preventive wellness. Because a lot of times we wait until we get to a
reactive
crisis situation to do something. How much of your work is more focused on the preventive care?
All of it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. All of it. I think that it is so much better to be proactive than reactive. And I hope that that's a lesson that we've learned from the coronavirus, to just know what we have, to make sure that we have ourselves taken care of. Obviously we don't know when something is going to happen, and so knowing how you're going to be affected and being able to making sure that you've set yourself up, whether financially or health wise or whatever it may be, is such an important thing for people to realize that it is their responsibility to do. And it's also a really big thing about responsibility. Taking responsibility for your health means not outsourcing all of your health to your doctors as authority figures. So they are not in charge of you. They are not in charge of your health. They are not in charge of your life. They are just helpers in that process, facilitators of health. That you are the person who is responsible for the health of your temple, your vessel. You are the one that is responsible for making sure that it is in its optimal state, for whatever that means for you. Optimal can be very different for different people, and I'm not saying that there is one way or one road or any of that. I'm not telling people how to live their lives, but there are ways to set yourself up to be in that state of taking care of yourself. That if anything else happens, you can't blame what you did and the actions that you took to, you know, to make sure that you were okay. Yeah. Make sense?
Yes.
Good. Do you have a follow-up, Seko?
Oh, you muted.
I was going to say, actually, it sounds like it makes a lot of dollars as well. And you're muted. You're muted is definitely going to be the phrase, the catchphrase of the pandemic era. So, you know, 40 years from now, the teenage, you know, the people who were teens will say, "You're muted," and laugh, and no one's going to get it. No one's going to get it. Right, right. Do you think that the committee that you and the Honorable Ancestor Nelson Mandela worked on, the Truth and Reconciliation
that was my
strategies?
Father. That was not me. That was not me. That was
okay,
my
your
father.
father. Your father. Okay, right. Do you think that those strategies were good strategies for South Africans?
Oh, this was so much. It's so much of a deeper question than
Right.
If you're
and I could probably say,
if you're asking if I think the Truth and Reconciliation Committee worked,
yes.
It started conversations. It started conversations I think that probably wouldn't have been had before. Those conversations would have been violent encounters. And so what the Truth and Reconciliation Committee did was basically give space for everyone to clear their transgressions, to speak out what had happened. And I think that there is definitely a healing in that process. I think that there is a lot of merit to that process. But do I think that it worked and that was all that needed to be done? Absolutely not. So, you know, there's still a lot of residue and things happening in South Africa that like would have definitely benefited from a little bit more work in that space, a little bit more just I don't even know. This is a question I wasn't really expecting to answer, but yeah, I think there's definitely a lot more that could have been done for the people that got affected by the apartheid era, but I don't think that the Truth and Reconciliation Committee was where it ended, and it just did.
I kind of think that approach benefited the Africans with a K and decimated the Africans with a C. What I'm saying is, you know, the native, indigenous, Black Africans there are in a worse situation after that Truth and Reconciliation process. And it's similar here in the United States. Those of us who are foundational Black Americans and those who came over to America post the 50s, in many ways, things have not changed. We've had a lot of great conversations. And
exactly.
Yeah. So if you, in your current state, could go back to that time period, what are some leadership lessons? What are some wellness things that you would have included in the Truth and Reconciliation process that really would have led to empowerment?
Ooh, coming at me with a deep questions here. Huh. I would have included more ancestral practice, space for more ancestral practice, introduction of more native practices, completely, you know, the land obviously is the biggest issue, and that's, you know, that's the thing that really didn't get reconciled. It just didn't. To put the land back into the hands of its original owners would be an obvious, and same thing in most of the world. I'm not just saying that this is a South African or American or anything, or Australian or anything problem. It's a problem worldwide to put the owners, to put the hands of the land back into the owners of the land, and to also just connect the community. The community element of it, to bring some kind of understanding of the oneness of everything. And this may be a whole lot deeper, because I mean, I also very much believe in the spiritual well-being, and the spiritual well-being of any country that has had trauma around it. So I think probably any practices that would have been trauma soothing or trauma focused for the people that went through that absolutely unspeakable trauma, whether like that, all of those practices should be accessible, free, and completely open to those people that had to endure unspeakable acts. Yeah.
That's right.
Pretty much all I have to say about that. Yeah. I think that's pretty much, that's what I would do. And I probably would do a whole lot more. I probably would do a whole lot more. It would be more than me just like, leading a nice yoga class. Obviously, it's a lot more. It's gonna take more than a couple downward dogs to resolve the political history and unwinding of the socioeconomic history of South Africa. But it's a start, I guess.
Okay. I mean that was insightful. That was insightful because one of the things that you said, if I understood you correctly, was that there were some traditional practices that have merit in the motherland that for some reason too many of us and too many of people in general don't value, which can bring healing, which can bring empowerment, and which can bring balance.
So anyone not really looking for balance probably wouldn't want that. But that is,
She just dropped the bomb on that. Anyone not looking for balance is not going to be interested in that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, yeah. It's true. It is what it is. It's like that balance is. humans are really strange and really funny, and it's really it's all about one thing. A conversation I was having the other day, and I think this is to that point before, is about division. And there's been a very old strategy tactic that has been around for a really long time: divide and conquer. And the more that is perpetuated, it's literally been going on for centuries in our societies. And the more that it is perpetuated, the more we will stay divided, and the less balance there is, because we can't hear each other, we can't listen to each other if we're divided. And then if we are divided, we can't unite. It just won't happen. And unfortunate. And so to be able to come back to that balance, it's about choosing the balance, choosing to let go of the division, choosing to let go of the separation. And maybe I'm overstepping in that, and I'm not saying it to offend anyone. I'm not saying it to be divisive. I'm just saying it is what is drawing. It is pushing us further and further away from the peace and the balance that we're seeking, if that's what we're seeking. Divide and conquer. It's always been the way.
Yeah, speaking of that,
yeah.
In the healing process, I find that African people worldwide, we have a nasty habit of what I call inappropriate or premature forgiveness. And we keep seeing this over and over, where the enemies of African people will use our morality and spirituality against us, to where we cannot allow the healing process to run its natural course before you get to the forgiveness part. Okay. And I'm in particular, I saw some of that in the in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and then here in the States, I've seen how, you know, whether it's with the Dylan Roof situation, what's going on now with George Floyd, what is it about us to where we allow our spirituality to be manipulated and have to take the high road against those who have traumatized and victimized us?
Ooh, and that's, ooh, I want you to keep your business. I want you to get your paper. I don't know if I want you to answer it. Please do. But honestly, we do kind of soft step.
Yes.
We do have the habit of soft stepping. Along with what you were saying there, brother. I'll let the sister respond any way you want to.
Maybe it's the faith itself. Maybe it's that, you know, the belief that maybe this time it will be different. I don't know. I'm actually happy to answer with I don't know. I can't speak for every person. I can only speak for myself. And that's in my experience of times I've done that, because it's something I've done personally. I will say it's been that consciousness of like, maybe this time it will be different, or maybe I just have faith that this is actually going to turn out for the best, or I don't know. I really don't know. I think that it's like, it could be just hoping for the best, or I've
come to the conclusion that it's the position of the people who feel that they're disempowered. So they'll say, like you were just stating, maybe this time it'll be different because I don't have the power to make it different. You know, maybe things will change because I don't think I have the power to make it change.
Yeah.
I'm going to allow someone else to fix it because I don't believe that I have the empowerment to fix it. Now, that's just my position. And of course, I don't have a lot of data behind that, but I do see behaviors that support what I'm saying.
Yes. That's not just, but again, you just spoke to the problem that a lot of people have with their health as well, where they're like, well, maybe my doctor will fix it for me. Maybe someone else will step into this role and take over and just handle it. And it's that authoritarianism that I think we crave it. We crave someone else to know what to do. And I think it happened a lot in the pandemic as well. Like we saw a lot of people really struggling with the fact that their governments had no clue what to do, no idea. Like we look to this one central thing to have the answers for us, whereas sometimes we have the answers for us. You know, we have to realize that we have the power. We are the ones with the ability to make the changes. We are the ones with the ability to, again, because it comes from being divided and feeling like you have no power, like you are powerless, like you have no voice, and not really knowing that you can just stand up and take that sense of responsibility of like, this is what I believe in, and this is what I'm doing for me, for whether it be for me, for my people, for my country, for my whatever it may be. It's a different kind of empowerment, is taking your own power into your hands. It's taking your power back.
I say, and I like the fact that you do that with companies. You help companies find the wherewithal, the power within to change the problems that their employees are having.
I think also, sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Because I just had this thought that empowerment is it's a two-way process. You know, you can't empower someone who does not want to be empowered, who does not want to take their power back. You cannot force someone to take their power back. It's literally like again, leading a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. You can give people the tools, you can give them the resources, but it has to be given to a person who wants to take those resources, take those tools, and use them to empower themselves. So again, it's a two-way process. There has to be someone willing to empower, and there has to be someone willing to be empowered, and that's how it just continues to grow and perpetuate. And to be able to see that in other people, to see people who have empowered themselves, people who are empowering others. These are the examples that we need in the world. We need to be able to see the empowered and the empowerers, and be both sides all the time for us to all grow and to continue this expansion, consciousness expansion.
Wow. I have one quick follow-up, and we have a few minutes left, but you said something that my father used to say, may his name be a blessing. He would say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But then he would say, son, but you can salt the food. I'm wondering if there is something that you do with your firm that salts the food so that the employees and the employer more readily participate and accept what you're bringing.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have like incentivization programs. We like give gifts and do different incentives. We do different challenges, different things to make it fun and engaging and to have a reason to do it. So some people do need that like competitive element, and some people need something tangible to get them to do things. And so for those people, for that, I guess that would be the salt on the food. Like if you have the offer of like, oh well, you could win an iPad if you complete your office's workplace wellness challenge. It may give you a little bit more incentive than you would have normally had to show up for the sessions, to do the challenge, to participate. And that it could just be the thing that started you in the challenge. Like it just gave you that little push to actually try. And so some people don't need that push. Some people just are self-motivated and they can just go for it. Some people need the interaction with their colleagues, and that's what drives them to attend. Because again, like there are so many other elements here that like the fact that we're remote, there are other elements that we have to offer that is outside of the scope of just being in a regular workplace, in a regular office. We like the fact that you can show up and you can see your coworkers outside of work. You can play a trivia game with them and like interact with them on a completely different level, because it's just like something a little bit more fun and a little bit more personal, rather than and there are people that need that social interaction. So that's also a little bit of salt on the food to make you show up to the live sessions and think that, oh well, I didn't wonder, like I'm not really that interested in wellness, but your social wellness is important. And if you're a person who's naturally like isolating or doing anything like that, that's actually extremely important for you to be showing up to things like that. So yeah, so I'd say like those are little sprinklings of salt that we have, but at the end of the day, you really cannot force anyone to do anything, and that's not my intention. It's not what I believe. I really think that everyone is on their own journey, and that's a beautiful thing. And we really need to just be simple, like we need to be kinder to each other on those journeys, on those paths. And this is just my way of trying to add a little bit more enlightenment, a little bit more education, and a little bit more awareness to whoever's journey I get to interact with.
Okay. Well, Brother Zumbi, once you hit that last question, and then I'm going to hit the final question, that generation question.
Generation question? Okay. I've always said that you can't take personal responsibility unless you're personally empowered. And I've always felt that the empowerment piece has always been missing in taking responsibility for our health and wellness. So if we, as long as we remind ourselves that in order to be responsible, we must be empowered with the proper tools and apply those tools properly to our situation, I think it'll go a long way towards total holistic wellness.
100%. 100%. I completely agree. I really like that. I really like that statement, because I also think that, I mean, education is a huge part of empowerment. So for you to be able to take responsibility, you have to be able to make informed decisions, which means you need to be educated about what you're thinking about. And so, yeah, there has been that missing link, that missing piece. But it's, again, as the education starts to grow, and that, again, that consciousness starts to expand, more people like you start writing amazing books to educate people about how to do it, how you did what you did, how you, not just thinking that your knowledge is, you know, that your knowledge is not vital or not necessary, the things that you know aren't going to be helpful to people. It's really helpful to educate people around what you know and what you're passionate about, because that helps them to, again, empower themselves with information that they didn't have before. And then again, that will help them to take more responsibility for the things that they're doing in their lives. So I educate someone for the things that they're putting into their bodies and what they're eating and the food choices that they're making. Without that education, they cannot empower themselves to take responsibility for their health, because they don't know. They have no consciousness or awareness around it. And so I absolutely 100% agree with you. And I do think that the more we educate ourselves and others, the better off we all are.
Good. Well, hey, this has been the Get On Code show, the show strictly focused on empowerment. Today we've been chatting and learning and hopefully learning from the Queen, Tarin Calmayer, or Mayer. Tarin Calmayer. Okay, yeah. And I guess the last question, with our last 2 minutes we have left, and I know your time is very valuable. What are you doing differently in this generation that will positively impact the next generation that was absent in the generation that brought you here?
Asking a lot of questions. Asking a lot of questions and sharing my information with as many people as I can in any way that I can, like really integrating information into, like, not making it information exclusive, not making it luxury, not making it expensive, basically allowing myself to just be a resource and be a teacher.
Wow, that's heavy. You're saying that you ask questions, because we did grow up, you know, generations before us. You didn't ask questions.
Exactly.
You kind of accepted the way things were. Right. We did grow up in previous generations where information was reserved, and you had to go through different rites of passage and had to pay stuff and be accepted in the right groups just to have the information. To succeed and proceed. And then also, earlier generations didn't teach the way it's happening now.
Yeah.
This is truly the information age. So
it is.
Yeah, I share you that. I share you. Thank you. Thank you for doing what you're doing, because you are changing the next generation with your actions now. So, hey, quick commercial. You're on the elevator and, you know, you walk into me and I have a multi-trillion-dollar company, and what's your pitch?
Oh, all right. I'd say hello. I'd probably say hi. And I'd say that I own this company that is a full-scale corporate wellness solution. So I see that you have an incredible company here that you've built, and I just wanted to let you know that you can take way better care of your people through the solution that I've created, which is a live virtual corporate wellness solution. So instead of just having, you know, your employees show up to a YouTube video or do like a meditation on their phones, you can actually give them the resource of like live virtual sessions with an actual facilitator from somewhere around the world that will help them to really be more calm, be more productive, be more efficient, be more effective, and that's going to help your business and help your bottom line. How does that sound?
Like I need to pull out my checkbook. All right, let's give it up for Queen Tarin, y'all. Let's give it up for Queen Tarin. All right. Thank you for being on the Get On Code show. Stay on code. Let the code be empowerment. Peace.
This show was brought to you by Positive Vibes Incorporated, our consulting services. We do credit fixes. We do tax resolution. We lend private money and debt consolidation. So if you need some of these services, we're waiting here for you. Credit fixes, tax resolutions, private money, and debt consolidation. Make sure you call Positive Vibes Incorporated.